Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Game Shot, the Fallout Bar. The very last time we're going to be with you this week as we review all of the action from the Betfred World Matchplay. I'm a bit gutted we're not going to hear that intro music anymore, Liam, because since I plucked it out the day before this tournament started, I've been vibing to it every single time it comes on. But alas, we move on to the darts. Another excellent night, mate. Two cracking semi-finals, to be honest. Give us your initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were disappointed coming on here last night after the two games, but certainly tonight now we were definitely not let down. The first game, Dimi did what Dimi did, and I'm not being funny, we couldn't have asked for a better semi-final. We sat here last night thinking it would go Wright's way, and it certainly did. But look, we definitely couldn't have asked for a better semi-final coming in tonight. I definitely was not unimpressed by what I saw now from Wright and MVG in the second semi-final. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, completely agree. Quick hello to everybody in the chat room once again. Thank you very much for joining us here this evening. And if you are listening back on catch up on one of your podcast providers, thank you very much for tuning in as well. Big hello to Missy, to Craig, to the guys that are in the chat room constantly. Geez, Juanita, I think I've seen your name floating around. It must be nearly 5 a.m. in Australia, where you are once again. Absolutely mad that you guys supported us all week, so thank you very much. I think, I'll be quite honest, Liam, it's been that much of a success that we're going to do this for every single week-long televised major for the rest of the calendar year. So you guys have supported us enough that we're going to be back, Liam, and hopefully that means more of you.
Yeah, definitely. I think if we're due more of this kind of performance that we've seen tonight, we definitely cannot miss out on doing this anymore. Utterly brilliant, and I think it's due. We definitely have to continue this. If the performances continue like this, we cannot continue not going on like this. It was absolutely brilliant tonight. God, I was impressed, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, we'd normally be sat here doing a podcast that we'd record without any images and we'd stick it out as an audio only. But the fact that enough of you are sat here watching us night in, night out, even the late night session that we didn't start until about 11:30, which was absolutely ridiculous. There was still plenty of you guys in here, still plenty of guys that watch back on Catchback. So before we do go any further, a massive, massive thank you to everybody that's tuned in to our coverage all week. And a massive, massive thank you to our sponsors for making that happen. To Betfred, the title sponsors of the World Matchplay, and to everybody else on the screen, to Modus, to Red Dragon, and to Winmore. I think it's time to talk about the darts now, don't you? We've had two absolutely cracking semi-finals, like we've said. So we might as well start talking about them after 4.5 minutes on this show. Game number one, Dimitri van den Bergh, the reigning champion, 17, Christoph Ratajski, 9. He is in back-to-back finals, Liam.
Yeah, and look, I don't think we would have sat here yesterday and said we would have expected anything other than Dimi to be in another final. Probably expected to be a little bit closer than it was. Ratajski couldn't have asked for a better start, 4-1 after the first session. I was thinking he was probably going to kick on then and make it a lot closer than it was. But unfortunately, that was as good as it got from after the first session and went dramatically downhill for him there. I think it was 15 of the last 18 legs for Dimitri van den Bergh that he won. And I'm not being funny, if I was playing against Dimitri van den Bergh and lost 15 of the last 18 legs, I would probably be disappointed too. So I can see where Christoph kind of fell off an edge there. 24% in a semi-final is definitely not going to win you a match unless you're averaging 125 your first 9 and reaching your double about 150, 200 points before your opponent. And that's definitely not going to happen against Dimi.
Yeah. Going back to that comment that was just up on screen from Daniel Ratajski, he was 6-2 up. He was absolutely coasting. Dimi looked a little bit shell-shocked. Ratajski looked like he was going to come out. The crowd weren't phasing him at that point, and he was just hitting everything in his way. He had a double break of throw at that point, and he is so solid on his own throw normally that you just thought, actually, there's a bit of trouble here for Dimitri van den Bergh in the early stages of the game, and the break probably came at the wrong time in the second session.
Yeah, and normally if you give a player like Ratajski a 6-2 lead, that is going to be very, very difficult to claw it back, but he almost has made it seem easy, Dimi. I know Ratajski gave Dimi chances to get back into the game, which is unusual for him. 6-2 lead. There's not too many players on the circuit that you expect to give away a lead like that, especially Ratajski. But look, I mean, I suppose Dimi made it easy. Ratajski maybe a lack of experience in the semi-final stage, maybe letting down. I mean, 24% in the doubles, like I said, 9 out of 37 I think he hit, is just not good enough. But if you'd have said from 6-2 he'd have lost 17-9, I think we definitely wouldn't have believed anyone who said that. I mean, 17-9 from 6-2 is quite incredible, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, they both have the same amount of attempts at double in the match. Dimitri 17 from 37, Ratajski 9 from 37. At one point, Dimitri won 8 straight legs after Ratajski missed 13 darts at double within those legs to just stop the rot at any point. It just felt like whatever he was doing, no matter where he went on the board, he just could not find the lipstick, basically, on that outer ring.
Yeah, and I mean, he won 8 in a row, then lost. Ratajski won 3 back, and then managed to lose 7 again in a row. And Dimi won 7 again. I mean, that's quite incredible that he managed to win 8, lose 3, and then win 7 in a row again. It's just quite incredible. Like we said, 15 legs to 18 there. I mean, it's kind of unheard of in professional darts that you'll win 15 or last 18 legs of the match. Ratajski, like we said, usually so reliable on the outer ring, and it just proves that semi-finals can change the professional players. And even someone so reliable as Ratajski on the outer ring just went missing, really, didn't he?
Yeah, completely agree. He's into back-to-back finals now, Dimitri. Last time, obviously, played without crowd. This time, noticeably trying to get the crowd on his side before tomorrow even starts. Another interesting post-match interview on stage. He's played up to him a little bit this week, hasn't he? And so far, it's paying off for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely proven value for entertainment in the post-match interviews anyway. He's trying to get the crowd on his side. Maybe a little bit of vulnerability there, that he doesn't quite 100% believe himself going into the match, that he has to get the crowd on his side going into it. 100% it's going to be a different game now tomorrow night against Peter Wright. He will know that. Against kind of his tutor, like we said last night, would it be that tale that he was under his kind of leadership in lockdown, and now he's going to end up facing now in tomorrow's final. But look, yeah, slight vulnerability, I'd say, that he has to kind of play up to the crowd to kind of get him on his side for tomorrow night. And look, we don't know what way they're going to react now tomorrow night. Could be completely against him come tomorrow night. We know Peter Wright is a massive fan favourite. So it will be interesting now come the finals night tomorrow night.
Do you think that's reflected in the way that he... I can't think of the word. The way that he conducts himself on stage, the pointing to the head, the calm down, the settling at that moment. Do you think that's nerves? Do you think that's part of his performance? Or do you think that's a moment of hesitation to genuinely give himself some belief that he's going to do something?
Yeah, it's unusual for a defending champion to be pointing to his head and calm himself down. I mean, this is the defending match play champion, arguably the second biggest tournament in the world. He's the defending champion, that he has to be pointing to his head, calming himself down, taking them deep breaths. But this is an unusual environment for Dimi. He hasn't been in front of a crowd as a defending champion. So maybe he has something to prove to himself, that he has to take that deep breath. An unusual environment for him, that he has to take that second or two before he even throws at the double, before it even goes in. And look, he's prepping himself. It's a learning curve for him all the time. But look, he's coped well with it so far, and I think that as results suggest, he's done what he has to do going into tomorrow's final, and I don't think he will fear Peter Wright. Definitely not.
Yeah, completely agree. So then for the last time before the final, let's listen to a little clip of his post-match interview / press conference. As always, if you want to listen to the full interview, jump onto our YouTube channel after we've finished the live show. Don't go anywhere just yet. We've still got more to come. Jump onto that, watch the video, drop it a little like and a comment while you're over there. We really appreciate it. So here is Dimitri van der Bergh in his post-match press conference.
It is Michael, even it is Peter Wright. They're one of the best in the world. But I've already shown this tournament that I can beat one of the best in the world, which is the number one, which is the world champion. So I really hope tomorrow everything goes to the way I want it to feel. Everything goes to preparation, have some food, have a good night's sleep, talk to my family, everything goes well. So the preparation is on top. And if that's on top, I will be on top. when I have to play up that stage in front of the crowd in that final.
Yeah, look, for a young man, he speaks very, very well, but it'll be interesting to see how he does approach tomorrow, given that he is playing against his former landlord, lodger, whatever you want to call it, for a period of time during lockdown, Peter Wright, after one of the most dominant performances on the Winter Garden stage perhaps we've ever seen. 110 average from Peter Wright, the 7th best match play average of all time, the best in a semi-final, so over that distance, as he took Michael van Gerwen to the cleaner, 17-10. What a performance, Liam.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, look, Dimmy seems confident in that interview there, as he always does. But my God, I mean, that second semi-final was utterly unbelievable. We said MVG kind of had to up it from his game last night. He certainly did, and he did. I mean, there's no question that he did. There was more signs than usual recently that MVG was closer to his best, but Wright was just simply sensation. He never looked like he was going to lose that game. I mean, look, even MVG kept battling throughout the game. He had 281 finishes to get it from 5-2 to 5-4. You're thinking MVG still in the game, but whatever he done, it just wasn't enough against Peter Wright. Like you said, I think that's the best ever semi-final we've ever seen, averages-wise, at the match play. I mean, it was utterly incredible. He missed the double 12 for the 9. I think it was the 8th leg he missed that. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. He makes it look so easy at the moment. I mean, for anyone aspiring to be a world-class star player, Peter Wright just looks like he's oozing confidence at the moment. And look how easy can he make it look at the moment.
It was almost an MVG of old performance from Peter Wright, because MVG has averaged 101, 47% on the doubles, 618. It's just a 1 ton plus checkout, 127 in 27 legs. In the past, we may have seen a couple more. Depends on the opportunities you create for yourself. But every single time, Michael looked like he was forcing himself back into the game, especially in that 4th mini session. Peter Wright had just gone absolutely ballistic in the 3rd mini session, averaged 127 for 5 legs, won 4 legs in 45 darts. He shot the door back in Van Gerwen's face and just moved away once again to avert that danger and keep himself in full control of the match.
Definitely. I mean, he was averaging 115 after 14 legs to darts. I mean, anyone who does that is just going to be near enough unbeatable. Even MVG, I thought it was probably his best performance of the week. He was keeping in there with Wright, even though it looked like it was coming a lot more easier to MVG this week than it had done in previous games. He was snatching in his earlier games. The movement of the wrist when they're showing the dart didn't quite seem like it was coming off. And he did look comfortable. I know he was behind. He was always chasing Peter Wright tonight, but he looked as comfortable as he had done all week. But, I mean, the gears that Peter Wright seems to be able to move up to, especially in the last week. We've seen in the last Pro Tour what he's capable of, and he did it again. He moved up the gear when he had to, and he kept it there, a consistent basis that if he keeps this going, like you said, I mean, we can see why he was so confident coming into the match play now. I mean, he looked unbeatable tonight. Once them darts, that the grouping of the darts at one stage looked like it was like a magnet on that treble 20. Once the first dart went in, bang, there was a 180 following, or even the finishing was brilliant again. It was the 48%. I mean, 110 is just absolutely incredible, especially in a match play semi-final over 27 legs. I mean, it's going to take some performance to beat 110 average over 27 legs.
If he reproduced it. One more question on Michael van Gerwen before we talk a little bit more on Peter Wright, and then we look ahead to tomorrow's final as well. By the time these guys pick up their darts once again in competitive action, it will be over 250 days since Michael van Gerwen last won a PDC title. That was at the Players' Championships finals in November. It is the longest in a calendar year that he has been without a title since 2011, 10 years ago. What does he do next? Because surely the longer this drought goes on, the more he's going to slip. Admittedly, a victory tonight over Peter Wright would have jumped him back into world number 2, but that isn't the case. And a win tomorrow for Wright will push him even further ahead now. There's some serious work to be done for Van Gerwen, isn't there, if he's going to pick up a title this year at all?
Yeah, and look, the signs were good tonight, but ultimately we've looked over the last couple of weeks. We said in the Premier League, one good day, the next day it's average. I mean, the inconsistency these days with the level that the players have brought up, the lower players, we say below probably the top four, has improved dramatically, that you just can't afford to have an off day. I mean, there's huge question marks. I thought about this earlier on. Will he actually win a major title this year? Now, I have no doubt that he probably will maybe win a Pro Tour.
Not just a major. But that's what I mean. He's been to a semi-final of a Pro Tour, at which point Peter Wright took him to the cleaners just a couple of weeks ago. He's in danger of not doing that at the minute, surely, because, like you said, he's so inconsistent.
Yeah, and I reckon. Look, if you put me to the wall, I'd say yes. I reckon he will win a Pro Tour between now and the end of the year. But in terms of winning a major, I would definitely not say that he's well in the mix at this stage. And as it stands, I could be putting my neck out now. I say he probably won't. If I had to call it now and then, he won't win a major. I just think there's too many inconsistencies in these games. If he had played a different opponent to Damon Heta, Ian White in the first two rounds, we could be talking. Michael van Gerwen may not even be in a semi-final now. So that's completely different. Look, his level was good tonight, but it's no good being good for one night. I mean, any player on the PDC circuit can be good for one night and beat anyone as it stands, but he has to be consistently better, has to be averaged at 101, 47 on the checkups to be close to winning a major title now. And it hasn't been good enough again over the whole tournament from MVG to come close to winning it.
Yeah, to respond to that comment, he's just not got that edge about him anymore, Denver. Like previously, he'd be playing average, but pull off something magic at that moment or shut down a response from his opponent. He just doesn't have that extra gear at those clinical moments at the minute. And even when he is doing something special, we're seeing less emotion from him. We're seeing less reaction from him. And that's something I've noticed in Rob Cross's game, Adrian Lewis's game. As they start to dip, they're less confident about giving it the big one because the minute the opponent responds, they don't feel like they've got anything in their locker. And MVG is slowly shying away from that emotional battle that we're so used to seeing him absolutely dominate on the stage. We need to move on. We can't sit and talk about MVG all night. I'm sure we can have a few more comments about him on Monday night's live lounge. Don't forget, we are back on Monday, myself, Jarlif and Phil, as is the Online Darts Live League. They've had a break this week because the match plays on, but they are back on Monday with the return of Richie Burnett. So don't forget to tune into that as well, guys. Let's talk Peter Wright then, because that was an absolutely exceptional performance. We're 20 minutes in. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but he was virtually unplayable tonight. That third session was ridiculous. He was 74% on darts at a treble that he went for in that session. It was mind-blowing, unbelievable, so good, so dominant. And this is where I'm going to be a little bit smug because I've backed him before the tournament. And if he stays with a straight barrel dart, he threw them at the Super Series and he's thrown them all throughout this tournament. That's 9 games in a row now. I think he's won. It's amazing what you can do with a little bit of consistency in the Peter Wright game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, he's used the same dart. I mean, with that consistency, we can see how good he is. We've been calling out for a long time now just to stick with someone. He is a brilliant dart player. We know that. And as he has stuck with these darts this week, he looks confident. I think he changed the stems halfway through the match there when it was kind of...
I'm not sure because they look similar. We're not sure if it was a heavier or a lighter dart. I'm not sure if the points were slightly different. He made a change. Didn't look like it was working for the scoring phase for the first couple of legs, but fired in that magical 149 that effectively stopped the MVG comeback dead in his tracks, because before that break, he'd allowed Van Gerwen back into the game just a little bit more than he would have liked, I think.
Yeah, and I'm not sure would have gone 11-10 or he went 12-9 ahead, something like that. So it would have been, and I think there was a breaker throw from MVG that would have allowed him to go maybe level if he'd won the following leg. I'm not too sure about that, but it was just the turning tide again. Just as MVG was slightly getting back into it, bang, he was gone again. And I mean, look, I don't know how much of a change it was. It looked like he was fiddling away. We can see it on the cameras there. But I mean, before the tournament was said, he was oozing confidence. It looked like he said before, I'm going to win the match, but I'm going to play the words. And like I said to you yesterday, please don't say that because it's a curse normally for him. But he looks so comfortable at the moment, and when someone of his caliber is that confident going into a major tournament like the match play, And he didn't look like he was going to miss, especially on them trebles. When that first start went in, it was like a magnet from they were following all the time. And he just, for a man like MVG, who's normally his nemesis on the big stage, he doesn't have a great record against him. He looked unfazed. He looked like it was just going to be his night. And regardless of what MVG did, and he was good tonight, MVG, we can't deny that, it was going to be Wright's night, and he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and it was almost his night in another manner as well. Went 6 perfect early on in the match. I sat there watching the game with my brother, and he's like, oh my God, it's on. And I was like, Peter Wright doesn't hit 9 darters. And then I was about 4 legs away from eating my words massively, because my God, was that close. And I'm pretty sure everybody thought it was going at that moment. It was such a good effort at the 9, just missing outside on the double 12. I've got a video from it from the crowd, from Lee Boyce, who's there as well. He's been on the show pretty much all week as well. You could hear the air just sucked out of the venue of disappointment that it didn't quite go. But it was a fantastic effort from Snakey, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was texting Boise halfway through and I said, we need more legs. We need more legs than this. And look, it's not a surprise that he just missed out. I mean, he came close earlier on in the match, and I think it was the 8th leg he missed the double 12 for the 9, and it wasn't far away. But it just had that feel about one of them matches when you know something special is going to happen. It looked like he couldn't miss at that stage. Obviously, the double 12 was just outside, but it had a 9 written all over it, that match, especially from Wright. I wouldn't have been surprised if MVG hit it either, because he was trying to stay in Wright's tail all the time. But look, it was just short of a 9 for a perfect performance from Wright, really.
Yeah, completely agree. Right, his clip of his interview isn't ready yet, as obviously we've come on air pretty sharpish after the game's finished. Lots of media to be done after he was signing the board, which was an absolutely great moment, by the way. Took the board off the stage, went and gave it to a child in the crowd. The look of joy on that kid's face was fantastic. And apparently there was many security surrounding him towards that afterward to make sure that kid took that dartboard home, as we know what some darts fans can be like. So with that, if we do get the clip before we finish the show tonight, we will put it in at some point. If not, what we're now going to do is talk about tomorrow's final, Liam. It is effectively the apprentice versus the master after their house guesting earlier in the year. It's Adrian Lewis and Phil Taylor of old, but the new generation, Peter Wright and Dimitri van den Bergh, defending champion against the former world champion. What a game we have in store tomorrow night. Surely, even if the two play half as well as they have done all week, we're going to get a fantastic final.
Yeah, exactly. And we sat here last night saying it was most likely looking like the form was going to look like it was going to be Dimi versus Wright. And like I said last night, it could be leg for leg, literally on throw, who can break throw. I mean, they're so consistent. I think going into tonight, Peter Wright had only been broken 4 times in his previous 3 games. I mean, that shows you how consistent he is on throw. It could be leg for leg tomorrow night. And I mean, Dimi will have to come up a level. I mean, if Wright plays anywhere near he did tonight, it's going to be very difficult to stop him. It's going to be very difficult to stop him anyway. But Dimi's the reigning champion, and I know a lot of people have said it's going to take a big performance to beat Dimi. Look, he wasn't at his best tonight. He did what he had to do against Ratajski. I know Ratajski missed massive amount of doubles. But I just reckon Wright is going to skew the young scholar again and maybe take his title back off him. I don't know what score prediction now you're predicting for us, Gob, now.
Hey, we're going to get to that bit in a minute. I want to talk about their runs so far. Before tonight, Peter Wright had made the semi-final of the World Matchplay, losing only 14 legs. He was absolutely superb throughout this entire tournament. Backed it up once again tonight. In contrast, Dimitri's conceded over 32 legs, I think it is now. Surely I don't know. It's difficult to say the players get tired in the same way that you do a Grand Slam at tennis, perhaps, and winning in straight sets is better than winning in 5 sets consistently. But that lack of being up on that stage in that heat, but performing so well, surely plays into Peter Wright's favour.
Yeah, and definitely. Look, he looked emotional tonight, and we understand the circumstances off the hockey. Don't exactly. I know his wife she's had surgery, etc., but it just looks like Peter Wright isn't exactly using that much energy at the moment when he's up on the hockey. I mean, he's getting the job done. He's not going the extra length where he has to grind out these big results to just get over the line. I mean, like you said, 14 legs in, what is it, 4 games now? I mean, it's
24 in 4.
4, yeah,
before that.
Exactly. I mean, like in the first 3 games, that's absolutely ridiculous. The fact that he's gone that long without without losing that many legs. And he looks fresh. I know there was a breakdown of a little bit of motion tonight. We haven't really seen that as much in the previous couple of games. But even though he'll have to play again tomorrow night, he looks fresh. I mean, he looks like if his game is in the right place, regardless of what Dimi does tomorrow night or what MVG done tonight, he knows he is good enough to win the tournament. He said it before it started, and it just looks like his game is coming together. He's happy with the darts he's using at the moment. And Peter Wright with a solid pair of darts throughout the whole tournament, we know can be extremely dangerous. And he looks like he seems settled with that pair of darts now. He's going to be very, very difficult to beat.
Yeah, completely agree. I want to touch on the comment that was flashed up on the screen just a couple of minutes ago. We've mentioned the fact that these have a great relationship. Do you think that the respect that Dimi holds for Peter will backfire? We've seen it in the opposite way around. We've seen Peter Wright give Phil Taylor the walk-on in the final when they met previously here at the match play, despite Peter Wright being the higher-ranked player. Do you think there is that little bit too much respect shown tomorrow from Dimi that, along with all the factors we've spoken about already, gives Peter Wright a further edge?
Yeah, I mean, look, Peter was always going to be the kind of underdog, and he was going to be going into that final with Phil. It was always Phil's swan song that was always going to be difficult for Peter to overcome that emotion of the crowd and everything that we knew that was Phil's final year. Look, Dimi doesn't seem to be phased by much. I wouldn't say it's going to play too much into his mindset going into the game. But certainly I think it would pay more to Peter's hands. Peter knows that he's kind of the young prospect coming through, that he would have kind of in some ways kind of helped Dimi on his way to winning that match play title last year. In terms of having the same impact as it did 4 years ago on Phil and Peter, I don't think it will play as much as it will have much of this effect on Dimi as it had on Peter 4 years ago. I'm not sure how you feel in that manner, but look, I don't think Dimi will have any respect for Peter when it comes to throwing on that hockey tomorrow night. As much as I feel Peter will get the better of him, I don't think Dimi will let that affect him one bit.
Yeah, the best way to be. One more question. Given the week that we've had so far, before we do give our score predictions, the crowd, they've been magnificent at times. They've been, frankly, quite poor at times. The title of the best crowd in darts, I think, perhaps could be on its way out of Blackpool this year. Seen some of the whistling while players are on throw and a few other things. And the antics of the players. Gerwen Price the discussion got very, very heated the other night. But surely tomorrow we see just a straight up game of darts where they just go up and let those arrows do the talking more than anything else. And that's the best way for it to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know we've had a bit of whistling, we've had a bit of jeering, but look, at the end of the day, the crowd didn't want to leave tonight. I mean, I just don't want to go home was ringing around the arena when Wright was near the finishing line against MVG. And look, they appreciate good darts as well. They wanted to see this continue, as we all did. We wanted more legs of this. It was absolutely brilliant tonight. I don't think that will play much of it. Definitely won't have an impact on the result tomorrow night. I presume. I think the crowd will be supportive of both players tomorrow night. I mean, they're both big fan favourites, Peter Wright and Dimitri van den Bergh. But in terms of predictions, I just think Peter Wright will have too much for Dimitri van den Bergh tomorrow night. I just think he's been the best player here this week. And regardless of what the crowd do, I think they have been brilliant for most part this week. I know they've had their downfalls in the whistling as well. We don't quite see. I don't agree with the whistling, and I know we've had a few characters have played up to the crowd and tried to get them going, but certainly, I think overall the crowd has been good, has given a good reception to most of the players that have graced the hockey this week.
Yeah, good, cool. Right, you know what time it is. Chat room, your turn as well, because we're no doubt going to waffle before we do finally give that number. But it is scoreline prediction time. The best final I've ever seen at the match play was Gary Anderson, Mensur Sudovic. That went to extra legs. Could we see that again tomorrow from these two after the performance they've put in all week? And if so, what number are you going with at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a possibility. We haven't seen many extra times, as you put it, in terms of extra legs this week, and I don't expect that to continue tomorrow night. I just think Wright just might have a little bit too much. I mean, like that you said, that Sulovic-Anderson final was absolutely amazing a couple of years ago, but I just reckon it's going to be probably, we say, 18-5 to Peter Wright tomorrow night. I just think he'll just have that little bit too much for Dimi. I mean, he's just looked incredibly consistent and brilliantly consistent this week. I mean, he's made 100 averages look like it's normal, to be honest. It's just insane, really, how one-sided and how normal he's looked. Made them 100 averages look. But I think Peter Wright will just have a little bit too much for Dimitri van den Bergh tomorrow night.
And by what scoreline? You know the drill by now. Come on. I know it's only night 2 for you, but you've been around long enough. You know I need a number from you. What scoreline are you going with?
Look, I know you've predicted him to win. So I'm going to say 18-15. 18-15 to Peter Wright, I reckon.
Interesting. Look, I'm along the same sort of thinking, apart from the fact that I've got that extra little smug element of saying Peter Wright was going to win this on the live lounge last Monday, and I haven't changed my mind. He has been absolutely superb tonight. At times, he has literally been unplayable. The grouping of the dart is fantastic, and like we touched on earlier, the fact that he's stuck with a dart means that he's just so much more consistent. He's just, I was a little bit surprised when he changed dart early, and I was a little bit worried about that maybe he'd lost a little mental edge. But that being said, I still think he looks comfortable tomorrow as well. If he gets out in front, I just think he's so difficult to break. I don't see him missing bags full of doubles at any point, which is probably a massive jinx. And at that point, Dimi has to do something special to stay in the match. And there's only so many times a player can go to the well, especially under the pressure of defending the tournament. I think we saw that a little bit early on tonight against Ratajski, that little bit of pressure going out on that stage, thinking that he should be comfortable and blow it away. And he really had to fight for it. But he's had to fight earlier in the tournament as well. Dave Chisnell, Gerwen, Price, even Devon Peterson, to be honest. It was a bit of a scrappy game, but there were still moments where you thought, actually, I've got to do something to step it up here. So with that, I'm going an 18-12 victory for Peter Wright. I think he's just blows him away in a session or two. And he's incredible. He's shown tonight he's incredibly difficult to live with at that point. So, yeah, that is where I'm going. A few predictions in the chat room. San Eldino, 18-11 to Wright, an even bigger margin than what I'm going for. Denver, 18-12, Peter Wright. Dan Blackshear says we're going to extra legs. He's got 21-19 Wright. Aidan, 18-16 Wright, wins it in the last leg effectively. Matthew Macy says the same, 18-16 Wright. Richard Cushion, that was up on the screen a minute ago, 18-12 for Dimi. I think you're the only person in the chat room going for Dimi so far. 18-13 Wright for Jake, 18-14 Wright for Harry G. Pretty one-sided in the chat room there, and pretty much everybody thinks Peter Wright is going to win the World Matchplay. And if he does, Monday night is going to be very enjoyable because I've already spoken to Phil Bars and Jarlath Eaton about just how smug I'm going to be given the nature of his performances so far this week. And they're not looking forward to it, bless them, despite the fact they've barely been on screen all week. Jar a couple of times due to technical difficulties, but Phil's been working his ass off in the background trying to get videos up ready for you guys. No sign of the Peter Wright interview just yet. So what we're going to do, we won't play you a clip of that, but just head over to our YouTube channel in a little bit. If you subscribe, you'll get a notification when that video is up. If not, you'll find it on there anyway as soon as it is done. Unfortunately, that is our last Game Shot the Fallout bar this week, as tomorrow we'll have the final. We want to save some content to review for you guys on Monday night's live lounge. So myself, Phil Bard and Jarlath Eaton will be doing that 8 p.m. on Monday. You know the time and the slot by now, guys. Thank you very much for jumping in for the last couple of days. You've been absolutely fantastic, mate, especially at short notice. Didn't realise you were going to be on, but Lee Boyce has enjoyed himself today. I think he's been with family and frequenting a couple of boozers, and we can't blame him for that because he's had a ticket all week, taking a couple of nights easy just so that he could do this show for us. A massive thank you to everybody that's joined us in the chat room throughout the week. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. Like we said at the start of the show, your support means that we're going to keep producing the show. We're going to keep doing it for all of the televised week-long majors. Probably not the weekend ones. They're not quite long enough for us to do this. And then we'll be sort of talking about them on the Monday anyway. But certainly all of the week-long ones. Next up, the Grand Prix in Leicester. Big thank you to all our sponsors for making this possible for all week. To Betfred, the top sponsors of the World Matchplay. To Modus, to Red Dragon, and to Winmore. Like the logo says up on stream right now, find us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find links to all of the interviews, to our previews, to our website, and to any other content that we've got up there, especially a very interesting Wayne Warren interview from last night at the Mad finals. And that's it, basically. A massive thank you to everybody that has joined us throughout the week. Enjoy tomorrow night's final as Peter Wright goes head-to-head with Dimitri Bergh. And hopefully we will see you all on Monday night for the live lounge. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Good night.